Social Security and Medicare and not privatize it like Bush wants to do, then vote for Obama. And we can put Americans back to work, building roads and bridges and transit systems and passenger rail from here to the cities to Chicago. You gotta vote Obama and Franken. Because McCain has always voted against anthrax. I'm not as good as And if you want anything to happen in America, then you have to elect Al Franken, who will stop those 94 filibusters that the Republicans have mounted in the Senate to shut down the United States Senate and the Congress and stop us from passing legislation to benefit you. We in the House passed legislation to increase the Pell Grants $900 a year. We started out doing $1,000 a year, but the Republicans had a filibuster, and we had to cut it back. We cut the student loan interest rate 50% in the House. We wanted to cut it down to 1%, but the Republicans wouldn't do it. They had a filibuster. So if you want progress, you've got to elect Al Franken and stop Norm Coleman from being part of the filibuster. Now there is a larger reason that we need to win tomorrow. 24 hours. In May, I was invited to address the 27 transport ministers of the European Union to give the keynote address to their annual meeting. And as I walked in the room and talked with them in French and in Italian and Slovenian and Dutch, one after another said to me, "Will you elect a Democrat this year and restore America's moral authority in the world?" That is what this election is about. Ending an unjust, immoral war in Iraq, bringing our troops home, and investing in America. Okay, raise the signs, but I need you for 24 hours. We need you. We need you to make calls, to drive people to vote, to get out the vote tonight and tomorrow, all day tomorrow until the polls close. Are you ready to do that? At an Obama rally in Columbus, Ohio, they had 4,000 people gathered like this. The moderator got up on stage and said, as you walked in, you were handed a sheet of paper with 4 names and 4 phone calls, 4 phone numbers. We want you to call those 4 people. Not tomorrow, tonight. He pulled his cell phone out. He said, we have extra cell tower power here to handle 16,000 calls. And I'm placing the first one, and I want all of you to place the next. And they made 16,000 calls in half an hour. So I want you to make 16,000 door knocks, phone calls, driving people to the polls to get the vote out. We do it up here. We get 90% voter turnout. And the person that's going to lead the way for us in the Senate, who has done for 2 years, who needs a partner in the Senate because she's had to deal with Norm Coleman. And we need instead of Dr. No in the Senate, Dr. Stand by and do nothing, we need some good medicine for the United States Senate. And we've had Dr. Klobuchar, Amy Klobuchar, who's been real medicine for the United States Senate. She came in like a breath of fresh air. She has real Minnesota values, deep roots. Her family, like my family, worked in the underground mine in the Vermilion Range in the Ely area, but she has taken the Senate by storm. She has represented our values. She has represented the best of Minnesota, and she is a beacon for the future. And Amy Klobuchar is here to introduce our main speaker.
Driving in right now through the fog in Duluth just to see you. It is so great to be here in Duluth, to be here at UMD. All you people way up there, it's great to see you. It's great to be here at UMD, the home of the women's winning hockey team. You know, I got to bring that up. I got to bring that up at the National Convention. I was sitting there at the last minute. They said Minnesota is going to be able to declare their votes. You know, when they say Michigan, they say the great state of, and I was working on what I was going to say, and Massachusetts was before us because they go in alphabetical order. And Massachusetts was boasting about the Red Sox, and I was getting madder and madder, and I thought, well, what can I say? The Bulldogs! And that's what I said. Now, we have seen this kind of excitement that we see today in this gym all over the country for our Democratic Senate candidates and for Barack Obama. My personally favorite place that I stopped in terms of getting campaign buttons was Sheboygan, Wisconsin. And they consider themselves the bratwurst capital of the universe. And they had these buttons that said Brat Obama. I thought those were pretty good. And then my favorite stop also was in South Carolina. And you have probably heard that cheer in the Obama campaign, right? Fired up, ready to go. Well, it started in South Carolina when Barack actually went there. And he went there because this woman in this little town had made him, she said, you got to come to my town. And because he really lives the words that there's no such thing as a red state or a blue state, he said, I'm going to go to that town. And he woke up that morning and it was pouring rain and they had to drive 2 hours and he was in a bad mood and he got out of the car and there was this woman, she's a senior, and she's wearing this big hat and there's 100 drenched people. And she looks at him and says, what's wrong with you? Aren't you fired up and ready to go? And he says, not really, no. And she says, well, you better get fired up and ready to go. And then she starts this chant, fired up, ready to go. Well, there I was 6 months later on the stage of Representative Clyburn's fish fry in South Carolina. As a little out of my element, there are 2,000 people. And all of a sudden, this woman comes up on the stage where I'm done. She's got this T-shirt. It says, fired up, ready to go. And I say, oh, I love that story about the woman in the little town that started the chant. And this woman says to me, she looks at me, she says, I'm fired up and ready to go. I said, oh, I know you are. I am too. I really am. She says, no, I'm fired up. I said, no, I am. Finally, she says, I am the woman. She says, I am the fired up and ready to go woman. And I thought to myself, you know, that's what this campaign's been about. That's what Barack's campaign been about. That's what Al's campaign been about. It's about a senior that 6 months later is still wearing this T-shirt that says fired up and ready to go. It is about the workers up in northern Minnesota that know that they need someone who's going to be on their side when it comes to health care. It's about the students across this country that know they have to pay for tuition. It's about the young people that are so fired up like they've never been before in this country. I know that. My daughter's 13, and she went to camp up in Bemidji, and she sent me a letter. She was there for 2 weeks of summer, and the letter said, Mom, there's ants at the bottom of the cot, but I'm still going to sleep. I haven't had a tick yet. How is Barack doing? And that's a 13-year-old, and that's what we're seeing all over this country. Now, why are people so motivated, and especially young people, because you know this is a historic election. That tomorrow we're going to have a vote like we've never had before in this country. The future of this world, the future of this country is in your hands. You know, I think of this last month, as I look at how Barack's been doing nationally, how Al's been doing here, I really think of it as a dress rehearsal for being president, being a senator. You look at Barack Obama. He's been steady. We've been dealing with the economic crisis. He's surrounded himself by people like Warren Buffett, people that know what they're doing. He's had a steady hand. And then you've seen John McCain kind of careening around, canceling debates, putting hate calls, saying he wouldn't take the low road, doing all these things, confusing people. And then he keeps talking about pit bulls. Well, I heard someone say the other day, you know what? I'm tired of hearing about pit bulls because we're in the pits because of your bull. I thought you guys would like that. I tried that out for the first time in Hibbing, and it worked pretty well. Now, Barack Obama and Al Franken are the ones that have a clear plan for the future, to get our economy back on track, to help students get their loans, and to help middle-class families get ahead. It's Barack Obama and a Senate with people like Al Franken who will lead us to a new energy future, so we stop spending $600,000 a minute on foreign oil and start investing in the new technologies of the future with wind and solar and geothermal. He said he wanted to put a man on the moon. A lot of you guys weren't even born then. But when he said he wanted to put a man on the moon, we did it. We won the space race. But it wasn't just about winning that space race. What happened, because he had that kind of moral leadership, what happens is we tripled the number of engineering and math PhDs in this country. And we brought the world things that you just depend on now but didn't exist before. Ultrasound technology, weather satellites, digital wristwatches, GPS monitors, things that didn't, pacemakers that didn't even happen before. Those little chocolate space sticks that some of your parents would remember that my parents used to take on camping trips in the 1970s. That all came out because John F. Kennedy had that moral leadership. Well, think of what we can do if we do that with energy independence. If we put a president in there with a senator and a Senate that will support that president that says we're going to have 1 million hybrids out on the road in the next 10 years. We're going to stop importing oil from countries like the Mideast and Venezuela and unfriendly nations. And it is going to be Barack Obama and a Senate with someone like Al Franken who will chart the course to bring our troops home from Iraq. Today you're going to hear from a woman who has already inspired millions across our country to get involved in this campaign and to support Barack Obama and Al Franken. She showed us what a leader is and won the hearts and minds of 18 million Americans. She showed us what a leader is when after her campaign was done, she so graciously continued the charge to elect Barack Obama as our next president. And she will show us what a leader is next year in the United States Senate when she continues the fight for health care for all Americans. Now she is here tonight to lead us into this final night of the campaign, to stand up for change, to get our country back on the right track. And since the Clinton years were some of the most prosperous in our country's history, I think she knows a little bit about what the right track is. When Bill Clinton left office, we had a budget surplus. He had created millions of jobs. And you look at where we are today, 8 years later. You look at where this economy is. You look at where our standing is with the rest of the world. You look at where we are with climate change. One of my favorite things that Hillary Clinton says when she talks about the administration, I'm on the Environment Committee with her, and we were actually able to see the administration doctor try to redact the testimony of the head of the Center for Disease Control. And the Center for Disease Control, she came to testify about how the impacts of climate change were on human health. And the testimony seemed, when we read it, it seemed disjointed. Well, it turned out they redacted 8 pages, including the section where she said that climate change, global warming, would lead to more wildfires on the Pacific coast. Well, guess what? They redacted that the same week the wildfires were raging in California. And what Hillary Clinton has said is that we need a president who doesn't want to live in an evidence-free zone. Because I know here at UMD you believe in science, right? We're a state. We're a state that believes in science. We brought the world everything from the pacemaker to the Post-it note, and we believe in science. Now, Hillary Clinton was here for my campaign 2 years ago, and she helped put me over the top. Now she's here to do it again for Barack Obama and Al Franken. Now, let me tell you, I'll just give you a little update. She's still driving here through the fog in Duluth, but I've got something more to say. There couldn't be more at stake. There couldn't be more at stake in this election. Let me tell you a little bit about what I'm talking about. When you think about the Senate, Jim mentioned this. 94 times the other side has filibustered when we want to get something done. 94 times. It's a record in United States history. What that means is they stop action. They won't let us debate. They won't let us go forward. They won't let us get a bill passed. They filibuster it so you can't actually get it to a vote. That's what's happened 94 times. Now, we've been able to get some things done. In the last 2 years, we were able to increase the minimum wage for the first time in 10 years. We were able to put Democrats in Congress. We put a record amount of money in student loans. We were able to pass 9/11 recommendations where the widows and orphans of that tragedy have been lining the halls of Congress with their 9/11 books trying to get something done. It was this Congress that got it done. And finally, something that means so much to the people of Minnesota and for the millions of people living in the shadows of mental illness, it was this Congress that passed the Paul Wellstone Mental Health Care Act. But we know there are so many bold challenges ahead, and we know the only way we're going to do it is with a new president and a new Senate. And let me tell you why we need these extra seats in the Senate. If we had 5 more votes, if we had 5 more seats in the United States Senate, we would be able to guarantee negotiation for cheaper drug prices for our seniors under Medicare Part D. We were 5 votes short. 5 votes short. If we had 4 more seats, 4 more votes in the United States Senate, we would have been able to override the president's veto of stem cell research. 4 more votes. If we had 3 more votes in the United States Senate, we were 3 votes short. We would have been able to pass Jim Webb's amendment that said what should be Army policy, that our soldiers should be able to rest as long as they serve, because when they signed up for war, there wasn't a waiting line. And when they come home to the United States of America and they need health care, or they need a job, or they need mental health care, there shouldn't be a waiting line in the United States of America. And if we had 2 more votes in the United States Senate, we would have been able to pass the Senate's true economic stimulus package, which put money into long-term unemployment insurance and infrastructure funding. Something I care a lot about. 1, because Jim Oberstar has devoted his life to this. 2, because I live 6 blocks from that bridge that fell down that summer's day in the middle of the Mississippi River. And as I said that day, a bridge just shouldn't fall down in the middle of America. Not an 8-lane highway. Not a bridge that I drive over every day. 2 more votes in the United States Senate. And if we had 1 more vote in the United States Senate, we would have been able to pass the Senate's true energy finance package, which took the $17 billion from the oil companies and put it in the hands of wind and solar and geothermal and everything that we need to live in the next energy. Now let me tell you where those votes are going to come from. Let me take you on a little drive around the country. You get away from Duluth for a minute, just for 1 minute. You start in Virginia, where Mark Warner is so ahead he cannot see his opponent in the rear view mirror. Okay, that's 1 vote. You go up to New Hampshire, where Jeanne Shaheen is running ahead in every single poll in front of John Sununu. That's 2 votes. You go out to New Mexico and Colorado, where the Udall cousins are running ahead despite having $10 million He's done what I've done. Al Franken has gone to county after county. He's met with people. You've seen what he's done. It was Al Franken when this administration wouldn't spend money for helmets for our troops. It was Al Franken who stepped up and raised the money to send money for helmets for our troops. That was Al Franken. It is Al Franken who's campaigned across the state with his great wife Franny that we've gotten to know so well. Stood with him like a beacon. I think that Hillary Clinton may be soon approaching. And so Northern Minnesota, and this is what we want to tell Hillary, right? Because she believes in endless possibilities. Northern Minnesota has always been a place that believed in endless possibilities. My grandpa worked 1,500 feet underground in the mines in Ely, and now I stand before you as a United States Senator. Northern Minnesota is a place where a dentist from Hibbing can become the governor of the state of Minnesota. Northern Minnesota is a place where a kid born in Duluth who played guitar in high school can go on to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Northern Minnesota is a place that believes that someone named Barack Obama, who came from nothing with no connections, through pure grit, through hard work and leadership, can become the next president of the United States. Northern Minnesota is a place where Al Franken, the son of a print salesman who grew up in a middle-class family in St. Louis Park, Minnesota, is just one day away from becoming a United States Senator. Now, there is a lot left to do as we get ready for Election Day. Barack and Al and Hillary have gotten us 95% there. And it's going to be up to us to do the rest in this next 24 hours. You are the ones that are going to make this happen. So get out there, knock on those doors, make those calls, make it happen for Barack and for Al and for all the candidates up here in northern Minnesota. So I'm going to ask you one more time, because this is the moment we've been waiting for. Are you fired up and ready to go?
Where you come out and you walk around while you're applauding. Hillary came to Minneapolis for my campaign about 10 days ago. About 10 days ago, Hillary came to... I didn't want anyone to know the first thing I was saying. Hillary came about 10 days ago to Minneapolis, for which I was to the University of Minnesota there. You've heard of it. And then her husband came. And then we did an event up in Hibbing. And then her husband, President Clinton.
these things, and I came out with them, and we had one of these things, and at a certain point we're walking around, people are cheering, and I go like, when do we stop this? And they kind of went like, they've had enough, we can stop it. But Hillary, I just am so pleased that you're here. I've known the Clintons since I guess '92, and I'm proud to call them both my friends. And Hillary has just been so kind to our family. In 1995, I did a film called Stewart Saves His Family. Okay, well that's about how well it did at the box office. But it's a movie I'm very proud of, and it's used, this is true, it's used at rehabs for family programs. It's about the family disease of alcoholism, and I'm very proud of the movie. And Hillary was very kind to have a screening at the White House for the cast and crew. And I got to bring my son Joe and my daughter. Joe was about 9 at the time, 9 or 10. And we had a little reception beforehand, and he wore a twins cap. And as I'm telling the story, I can't for the life of me understand why my wife, Franken, and I allowed him to wear a baseball cap to the White House. But when he met Hillary, he took his hat off and held it over his heart. And Hillary laughed. Because no one had ever done that before, at least not a 9-year-old. But he felt it was an honor to know her. And I think it's been an honor for all of us to get to know her. Over the last 16 years, but especially over the last year and a half, couple years, and seeing what a fighter Hillary Clinton is. A fighter for working families and the middle class. And I'm just so honored to have her here today. And I also think when we think back, I want to thank my wife, Franny, who's here. And when Franny and I started this race, I called all my friends and said, Franny and I are running for the Senate, and if we win, I get to be the senator. And I think Hillary knows partnerships like that. And I think we all remember those 8 years, those 8 Clinton years. I think you remember those 8 years, 23 million new jobs. A record deficit that became, at the end of 8 years, a record surplus. That 8 years later is a record deficit again. Let's not be negative. And we saw Hillary and Barack Obama make history this year. There was a long, long time there, and I think Hillary knows better than anyone how long that was, when we didn't know whether we were going to nominate the first woman to be president of the United States or the first African American. And Hillary has done 70 events? 75 events. But who's counting other than Hillary? 75 events for Senator Barack Obama to make sure that And you know, as inspiring as that is, and it is, what I've come to believe over this past couple of years, going around this state and hearing people's stories, is that this election and what America is about isn't about that anybody can become president. It's about that everybody can have a job. Everybody can have a job that pays a good wage. Everybody can have a roof over their head, and everybody can get health care. Something that Hillary has been fighting for and fighting for. And everybody who wants to can have a college education. And everybody can reach for something meaningful in their lives. And everybody can pass on a better life to their kids. And that is what the American dream is, what the promise of America is supposed to be. But you know, there's been a gap between the American promise and reality, always in American history. But over the last 8 years, this gap has grown into a giant chasm. And what this election is about, and what I believe the next 4 years is going to be about, and the next 8 years is going to be about, is bridging that chasm so that finally the American promise, the promise of this country, and reality are the same, and then finally that promise is fulfilled. I want to thank you all for being here. And I just want to say that I can't tell you how grateful I am to both the Clintons, and I can't tell you how honored I am to call them both my friends.
We love you, Al!
And I have the honor right now of introducing one of the great statesmen in this country, Senator Hillary.
That is going to determine, not just in abstract ways, the future of our country, but in very particular ways, the future that each and every one of you can look forward to. So I am thrilled to see you all out here on behalf of yourselves, because that's what this election comes down to. And I love these signs: Obama, Franken, and Oberstar. We have a great group of elected officials here who are supporting Al Franken. I want to not only thank my great friend and colleague, Senator Amy Klobuchar, but to tell you what a great job she's doing for Minnesota. And we've got a lot of work ahead of us after we finally see that moving van leave the back of the White House, taking And I want to thank your great congressman, someone who chairs one of the most important committees in the House of Representatives, who loves this area of Minnesota, who works his heart out for you every single day, Congressman Jim Oberstar. And I want to recognize Mayor
this great university for your stellar athletic prowess, particularly in hockey. And I was privileged to meet the women Bulldogs some years ago, and so I'm glad to be here where all those victories are won, and congratulate all of you for having such a great athletic spirit here at UMD. Now, one of the reasons that I'm thrilled to be here is that this part of Minnesota has one of the highest voting percentages of anywhere in the United States. Jim Oberstar was telling me that it's pretty typical for northern Minnesota to vote 95%, and a few years ago there was even a county south of here that voted 104%. Now, in some parts of the country, that would raise a certain level of suspicion. But because of same-day registration, it just meant that more people decided to get up that day and go vote, which I think is a great way to spend your time on election day. And what we are hoping is that we'll have record turnouts across Minnesota, particularly up here in Duluth and across northern Minnesota, because this election is that important. And the purpose of our being here today is to urge you to support a good man with a good agenda who will work his heart out for you in the United States Senate, Al Franken. That have been lobbed against Democrats and all the spin and the sound bites, this election is really pretty simple. The people of Minnesota need a champion in Washington. You need someone who doesn't bring the ideology of Washington to Minnesota, but brings Minnesota values to Washington. Who recognizes that middle-class families and working people in Minnesota need an advocate. Because for the last 8 years, middle-class families and working people have been invisible to George Bush and the Washington Republicans. They just haven't seen what's going on. And we need leaders like Barack Obama and Al Franken and Jim Oberstar, who will work for the changes that you are yearning for. Now, this election is important to people of all ages, but it is especially important to the young people here, to the students here at UMD. Because, Jim Oberstar and I are old enough to know that when we came of age and were looking at our future, it seemed like the economy and its opportunities were limitless. All that stood in the way was whether we were willing to work hard. Roll up our sleeves and do our part. But so many people today feel like the American dream is receding, that it's somewhere lost in the fog out there. And that really is troubling to me, because I've spent my entire adult life working to make sure that every single child had a chance to live up to his or her God-given potential. And I know what that means. Yes, it means families that guide, love, and discipline their own children. Yes, it means educators who are there to open the doors of learning. It means, as I said in a book that I wrote some years ago, that it takes a village to raise a child, with all the people in that community playing a part. But if there were ever any doubt in anyone's mind that it also took a president then that doubt has been erased by the administration of George W. Bush over the last 3 years. And it wasn't bad enough that he came to Washington and implemented a radical ideology. It wasn't conservative. There's nothing conservative about what George W. Bush stands for. Nothing. It wasn't conservative with your tax dollars, driving us into the biggest deficit and doubling our national debt. It wasn't conservative in the way that we looked at our role in the world. It wasn't conservative in how we took account of human nature and tried to make sure that there were appropriate safeguards on the free market. There's nothing conservative about it. And yet, for 8 long years, George Bush has had allies in the Congress, including Al's opponent, who have voted time and time again for disaster.
This is it. This is the moment of truth. All eyes are on you, and the balance of the Senate may hang in your hands. The ability to deliver change to our country may come down to the vote you cast tomorrow. This is an incredible responsibility, but also a great opportunity, because you have the chance to stand there and cast that vote against a $10 trillion debt. You have a chance to vote against tax breaks for outsourcers and special interests. You can say no to the smears and the lies. You have a chance to say no to the failed policies and bitter politics of President George Bush and Senator Norm Coleman. You have a chance to say yes to a new direction. Yes to quality, affordable health care for every single American. Yes to an economy that produces good jobs for people willing to work hard and once again create shared prosperity for the middle class and working families. Yes to bringing our troops home from Iraq. To the change we need that can only be delivered by Barack Obama and partners like Al Franken. You know, Al Franken was born and raised here in Minnesota, and his family struggled at times. His parents had to move to find work from somewhere else in the state into the Twin Cities, but they always had that sense of possibility and potential that was our birthright back in those days. And the experiences and the values that he learned have always guided Al. Now, sure, he's been a comedian, and as I've told him, occasionally he's even been funny. But I've always known how deeply committed he was to making sure that this country that he cherishes, that gave him so many chances, is there for all of you. And he's been guided by an unwavering, unflinching sense of standing up for people. You know, you heard him refer to the movie that I helped to premiere, I guess, at the White House, and it was a funny movie with a really serious message. Alcoholism is serious business. A lot of families are affected, and a lot of folks don't know where to turn. And because of the courage of Al and Franny, a lot of people are being helped today who would not have been helped if they hadn't stepped in. The height of George Bush's arrogance in Washington, when people were afraid to speak out, and it seemed as though most of the media were either intimidated or part of a cheering squad, Al Franken stepped forth He challenged a lot of those in the far right. He said, wait a minute, you guys, this is not working for America, and I'm not going to stand by and pretend that it is. So he became kind of a wrench in the gears of the right-wing attack machine. He became a voice for truth with jokes thrown in. And although he opposed the war in Iraq, he supported and honored our men and women in uniform. And he went to visit Iraq 4 times to support our troops there. He traveled the world with the USO, and he has been a staunch voice on behalf of taking care of our military and our veterans. He's also a passionate advocate for universal health care, for clean energy, for raising the minimum wage, for making college affordable so that every single and he has fought to protect Social Security from the ill-advised idea of the Republicans to privatize it. Al's got a lot of innovative ideas, like a universal 401k or 401u to help people save for retirement. He's got a lot of good ideas that are bold and serious and innovative for Minnesota. I know that he will represent you well with passion and enthusiasm. And you know, I just have to mention that the son of one of our great senators, a real hero on behalf of working people, is here with us, David Wellstone. Were extraordinary public servants. And I remember all the times that I had the great honor of watching Paul on the floor of the Senate, getting himself all worked up on behalf of somebody else. Not on behalf of a president or an ideology or a special interest or the powerful or the privileged, but on behalf of you and your family. That's what I hope you are going to vote for again tomorrow. To have somebody down there in the Senate going toe-to-toe with the special interest, maybe prod them a little bit with a few jokes along the way, to make the point that it is truly time for a change. You know, we're going to have a transformational election tomorrow, and there are 3 numbers I want you to remember. 57 billion, 10 trillion, and 60. 57 billion, that's what Norm Colvin and George Bush have given away to the oil companies in new tax breaks and to the outsourcers who actually ship our jobs overseas. That money could sure be better spent right here in Minnesota, building and repairing transportation, infrastructure, investing in health care, and clean energy jobs. 10 trillion, that is the debt that George Bush and Norm Coleman have created. We even had to add a digit to the National Debt Fund. And 60, well, that's what we're aiming for. And every single vote will count in giving us the Democratic senators we need to avoid the gridlock, to begin really to work across the aisle with Republicans who will no longer be intimidated by the right wing of the Republican Party and will work with them. Now, my friends, there may well be some people you know who are not yet decided, and there may be even some who are leaning in the wrong direction. So that's why I'm deputizing all of you. Get out and make the case in the next hours. To talk with people about what is at stake in this election and to tell them that you're not asking them to take a leap of faith, just look at the evidence. You know, within living memory, we have two administrations, a Democratic president and a Republican president. And by comparing and contrasting their policies and the results of those policies, it's a clear choice. A Democratic president under whom we created 22 million plus new jobs, the average family income went up $7,500, and we ended with a balanced budget and a surplus, compared to the worst job creation record of any president since the Great Depression. Family income going down $2,000, and these huge deficits and increase in debt. Now, the Democrats know that we're going to face some tough decisions. It seems like it's our fate to have to go and clean up after Republican messes. But we've done it before, and we will do it again. I like to remind people that it took a Democratic president to clean up after the first President Bush, and it's going to take a Democratic president to clean up after this president. So we are now moving from saying yes we can to yes we must to yes we will. Franken to the Senate. So will you come out tomorrow and vote for Al Franken to be our